Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. And today we are going to learn about how to make biscochitos. And so, one thing I wanted to let you know on the screen below, it says Storytime Kids to Go for this broadcast. That's not true. So, I just didn't know how to take that off. But just so you know, there are no kids to go for biscochitos. But I do want to let you know that this is a special little cookie here that is actually the state cookie of New Mexico. And here in southeastern Colorado, it's a very popular cookie. And it's sort of like a shortbread cookie. And it's not easy. It's not hard to make, but it's the once you have the dough together, it's not that easy to make. But I'll show you, and I'm sure there's some tricks that will help you to make it. And there are different types of recipes. Everybody loves biscochitos here in Pueblo, and they are a wonderful cookie. We call them biscochitos, which means little biscuits in Spanish. But in Mexico, I've seen them called polverones. In Texas, they call them, I already forgot the name of what they call them, the pan de polvo. And so different regions have different names for them. Basically, they're a shortbread cookie that came from Spain, and the indigenous population put a little twist as well here in different areas where you're at. So some people put anise, and here in Pueblo, that's what we use is anise. And of course, sugar and cinnamon is all around it. So I'm going to show you and share with you how we started. And so I'm giving you just a basic recipe of what we do. And so I have about 3 cups of flour, and I am putting in half a teaspoon of salt and 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder. And let's see, mixing all that in together. So you're putting all your dry ingredients first in a separate bowl, and then I'll be putting in the wet ingredients as well. So you're mixing that, and then I'm just showing you the anise because there is about, let's see how much anise. I have like 3 teaspoons of anise seed in that pestle and mortar, and that is going to be put into the flour once I have it crushed. And you just want it, you can't make it into a powder, but you can get it liquid, you can get it powdered, but I just like to have the seeds because it looks pretty in the shortbread cookie, in my opinion. So I'm mixing all that together, and then there is 1 orange zest that you can put in. Not all recipes call for that, but I thought I'd put that in there. So that's in there, and then you're mixing that up. And so that's 3 cups of flour. Actually, 4 cups of flour is what I put in. And then 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and half a teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of crushed anise seed, and zest of 1 orange. So now I'm doing the wet ingredients, and I am using Crisco instead of lard. Now, lard is the traditional thing that you're going to put in there, but I like to share some of what I make with my coworkers, and some of them are vegetarians. So we went with Crisco, and so that was 1 1/4 cups of Crisco. And 3/4 cup of sugar. Now it's up to you. I've seen recipes where they add more sugar than that, and I don't know, because when you're finished with your cookie, when it's baked, you're going to roll it in sugar and cinnamon. So I don't know if you need more than 3/4 cup of sugar. It's kind of depends what kind of a sweet tooth you have. But here I am basically, and there I put in the eggs. And those eggs, I put one large egg in there. Mix it all. And I'm just gonna fast forward here so you can kind of see. Takes a little while. Oh. So now it's nice and fluffy with the Crisco. And now I'm putting in, and I'm slowly mixing in the flour mixture. So you're not actually going to put it in and just dump it in all at once. You definitely want to mix it slowly. So you are mixing it little by little with the flour, and then you can look at that. You can see it is really crumbly, and that's what you want. It's not like any other cookie I've made. I've never really made shortbread before, so shortbread is definitely different from other cookies, is what I discovered. And then now that I'm finished, I'm just gonna pull it all together. And it's still pretty crumbly, and it's going to be. And even when you're rolling it out, it's crumbly. And but it's not impossible to make. I thought it was gonna be kind of tough, and it's a little tricky when you're rolling it out, but it actually works really well in this recipe. I didn't fail, so I thought I was going to. And so and I decided to make out different portions, and I put them into balls and then wrap them in. Um, I wrap them in plastic wrap, and so you're going to you're going to have to like wrap everything in plastic. So you can do it all in one ball and do it that way. I just decided to separate it because I just thought it might be easier, since this is the first time I've done that I've made these cookies, that it'd be easier to have them separated. And I think it kind of was. And so there is and then I just went ahead and refrigerated it. So let me close that out. And so I refrigerated. They recommend that once you have it all wrapped up, you refrigerate it for, let's see, half an hour. And then you're going to have your oven heating up at 350 degrees. So that is in the refrigerator for half an hour. And then one thing I wanted to tell you is when you're mixing the Crisco with your egg, you are also adding a teaspoon of vanilla extract. That's something I forgot to tell you. So just so you know, your vanilla extract is kind of important. Now, other people do different things. So Bill Richardson, he was the governor of New Mexico, and his wife's recipe, they claim that you need to add red wine. Other people add brandy. And so it's whatever you think you want to use. And then other people, they say it's not Biscochitos if you're not using lard. So other people add butter, or they even do a mixture of butter and some other type of fattening. So play around and see which ones you think would work for you, because you never know. You might find something that tastes better to you. So lard is definitely going to taste pretty good. Let's face it. But you never know. So here we go. I've got my dough that has chilled for 30 minutes. And now I'm going to try to roll it out. And it was not easy. I'm going to be honest, but with your hands, it tends to kind of like warm up the dough a little bit, and that seemed to help. So you're going to just, I'm just going to like fast forward a little because it honestly was just, as you can see, it just kept crumbling in my hand. But I did get it there. The first time was a little harder. So now you're kind of just pulling it together. Just keep kind of pulling it together. And believe it or not, when you bake them, they hold together. They're not going to fall apart. So let's see. And I'm just going to go ahead. I was working it a lot because I had a hard time. It's just very different from other types of cookies. Okay, so there we go. And you start. So I recommend when you're putting it in, just be really gentle with your dough because it can be a little crumbly. And you can even tell, and you'll probably see this, that there were some that were really hard to pick up to put on your dish that you're going to use to bake it. And so you're going to, because you want to kind of have it all together when you get it on your baking dish, but you don't have to because some of mine kind of fell apart. And so it's a little forgiving. The dough's a little forgiving, and you kind of like push it back together, and then it held. So I thought that was kind of neat. So this one, I think I'm going to try to pick up, and I don't think I could. And that one, I think I could feel, yeah, only half was going to come up. So I think there were some others that I was able to pick up. And I'm just trying to be gentle with it because, and then that one I was able, and you can see the anise there. I just put my baking dish with a piece of parchment on there. And so now you're going to fill them all up, and then you're going to put it in the oven. So I think that's the last of that. So with the next video, I'll show you how it looks when I pull it out of the oven. And so you're going to have it at that 350 degrees, and you're baking it for about 10 to 12 minutes. Let's see. Yep. So I pulled it out, and you see they look pretty good. Even though some of them I did kind of have to push together, just so you know. And then what the instructions were is for you to have, that's your bowl of sugar and cinnamon. And you're going to put a little bit of it. You're not going to touch your cookies at all right now. As soon as they come out of the oven, they're just going to fall apart if you try to touch them. So you're going to put a little bit of sugar and cinnamon on top. And that in that bowl is a cup of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Now, if you want it more cinnamon, then add more. But this actually ratio worked pretty well. And I thought I was going to have to put more sugar and more cinnamon, but it turned out to work out just fine. And so you're putting that sugar and cinnamon on top, and it's just going to kind of melt down into the cookie. And then let's see. And then I think I will be able, yep. So then you wait 10 minutes, and then you can pick them up and put them in, roll them in your sugar and cinnamon. So you let that wait for 10 minutes before you touch them. And then once you touch them, they actually held together. Nothing fell apart. So, but it's just real important when you pull them out of the oven that they just get to rest for those 10 minutes before you do anything. And so those are the Biscochitos. and they worked out really well. They were really tasty. And, traditionally here we see a lot of Biscochitos during Christmas and something special for the holidays. But in Pueblo, you can find Biscochitos year round because they're that good. So I hope you try to make them because they were really good. And so I'm just going to repeat the recipe one more time. So when you roll it all in the sugar and cinnamon, it's 1 cup of sugar and 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. It is 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons baking powder, and half a teaspoon of salt, and 3 teaspoons of crushed anise seed. And all of that you are putting in the dry mix, and then a zest of 1 orange. And then in the wet mix, you have 1 1/4 cups of lard or Crisco or butter, or a combination, and then 3/4 cup of sugar, 1 large egg, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And so it was really good. It took less time than I thought, and that will give you a little over 3 dozen cookies. And depending on the shape that you use. Traditionally, in New Mexico, I've seen them use a lot of the stars and the moon shape. And I thought since we're heading into Valentine's Day, I would use Valentine's, a little heart shape. So I hope you have a great Valentine's Day. Maybe you'll make it for your loved ones, and hopefully you won't hog all of them. I wanted to, but I decided to share, and people appreciated it. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day.